How much trauma is there left in you to heal? It's a really good question. Like, are you almost at the end of your journey or are you just beginning? And how does holding trauma create a kind of limiting beliefs and circumstances in your life that kind of contain you still within it? But what also happens if you fully heal it? And therefore, all the scarcity thinking and limitations go away. My guest, Rose Metcalf, is the person to speak to about this. She was one of the last survivors of more than 4,000 people aboard the Costa Concordia shipwreck. And it began her journey, her initiation into her healing and her life's work. Rose is a coach, a leader, a facilitator, and she helps people everywhere discover their inner power, heal through trauma, and really create a daily power hour ritual of inner being work and gentle healing that will help you get in touch with your divine feminine, among many other things. We'll find out more about Rose at her website, rosemetcalf.com. And now let's drop into some really healing conversation. Hi, I'm Summer McStravick with flowdreaming.com, and welcome to this series, Scarcity Thinking Sucks, So Do Limiting Beliefs. So let's dissolve your limited thinking, dump those scarcity thoughts, own your power, and get you back on your feet, reaching for the stars. Over the course of these episodes, you'll hear from some really brilliant minds about ways they pinpoint and blow up limiting beliefs in their specific areas of expertise. So come with me on a journey into your mind and heart, and let's see what we can find in these very enlightening conversations. Rose, it's so wonderful to meet you, and I'm really looking forward to our discussion today.
Me too. I cannot wait to see what unfolds. I have a feeling there's going to be some treasures that come between us.
Yeah. I just kind of ran into you in your work recently, and I was struck by one, you've had some serious trauma in your past, which we're going to get into. And it made me think, God, she's really come through this. She's really come out of this. What did she have to do? Like, what happened in her mind where you said, I am not going to be held back by this. I am not going to allow it to restrict or constrict my life because of this. And these are things that a lot of us end up kind of accidentally, I think, falling into this limiting belief trap of, I was really hurt and I'm never going to be hurt again. I'm never going to go there again. I'm never going to do that again. So we fall back instead of walking forward and through. So why don't you start with just kind of giving me a little bit of your story so everybody knows what the heck I'm talking about?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So 9 years ago, I was one of the very last survivors of the Costa Concordia shipwreck. It was an accident that was 4 times the size of the Titanic, to give it some scale. And having survived when I should have died, and I mean, I honestly had the moment where I made peace with death. So I really, truly faced my own death and the ensuing survivor's guilt and the PTSD that I wouldn't even acknowledge that I had because I felt undeserving of the label of PTSD. And until you're aware of something, you can't heal it. It took me an entire year to cry. I went through survivor's guilt, which is where you're alive, but you're not really living because you feel like, who am I to get to be happy? Who am I to experience joy when somebody else didn't get to live? And I would have gladly given my life for somebody else to have survived. And the journey that I walked on was like no other. And I hope my work in the world is that I hope nobody else has to suffer the way that I have. And unfortunately, that's not the truth. We've all experienced deep traumas. And I remember my dad, right after I I survived, shockingly, said to me, "Don't let this define you. Don't be defined by just surviving." And those words have rung through me all these years. Did you know that 95% of people are just surviving? We're just
Yeah.
surviving.
Yeah,
Right.
I can see that. Yeah.
And perhaps my story is on a scale that allows me to see that because I went through the depths of the dark night of the ego, as I call it.
Mhm.
And I really walked through the mud. I did the work. I did the shadow work. I did the healing, the deep healing, which is never pretty. We think it's this like waving our arms in the air and singing kumbaya, and it's not. It's not that. But having been able to walk through it myself and rediscover my joy and actually find purpose and fulfillment through the trauma that initiated me into my work to help people live fully now. I mean, I received that lesson as the person who faced her own death, that I realized there may not be a tomorrow. And so we have to live fully now. And that is my core message, because every day is a gift that I am alive. And so many of us are thinking mañana, tomorrow, oh, that will be nice someday. But you listen
Yeah.
to the regrets of the dying, and it's exactly this, that they didn't live fully for themselves. They didn't find that fulfillment, who they truly are.
Mhm. I was just caught a moment ago. I just took notes on it. A phrase that you used, how trauma initiates you into your work. I think that is a beautiful expression of this because I've worked with many people with many traumas over time. And we always think it's our own personal burden, it's our own personal cross. We realize other people have traumas, but we don't really connect to their traumas. It's no, it's me and I'm broken. And until this is healed or until I'm fixed, and I don't know if it ever will be, I don't know if I deserve for it to be because maybe I was participating in the trauma, have some guilt around the trauma. And it becomes this blanket that kind of just like a big old green army blanket that just covers you, and you live beneath it. You live beneath the trauma, and you realize I want to heal, but I'm not healed yet. And so it almost becomes this mythical thing that might someday happen, but it's not happening now, and you don't really know when it will happen.
Yeah.
But when you shift it and you say your trauma is initiating you into your work, it makes me think, oh, the trauma is actually a step on the path. And I'm actually walking this path of initiation. Why the heck would I stop in the middle of this path? Like, what is the next step?
Right.
Is that
Yeah.
how you kind of see it in this initiation idea?
Yeah. And this is the path of enlightenment, or the path of awakening.
Mm-hmm.
We can choose to be in that place of being a victim. And I know that might trigger some people listening right now. I know that's really
Oh,
tough for the
the V
ego
word is
to
terrible. We're
say.
like, no, I'm not. I know.
But what do we gain from our victim story, really? So think about it. When you tell your story, what do you get out of it? What do you receive? Is there pity? Do you get benefits from it? And when you're actually able to see how you can have utilized this story, and that you're choosing to stay in this place, that really is the moment you're able to shift. And I'm going to share with you what made the difference for me, Summer, that I was able to step out of victimhood and really see that the trauma I had experienced had been my initiation and had been for my fulfillment. And that's a really tough thing to get to. And this is very, high level. But it's really that we go around thinking, and I know this is going to land for some people listening and watching, we think that our traumas and our hardships and our sufferings have happened to us. This happened to me. This happened to me. And when you are able to look at your life now and the wisdom that you have and where you are now, and the strength and the knowledge and the knowing that you have, and you trace it back to that event or that recurring theme in your life that has
Yeah.
kept you suppressed, that you're taking so much energy to keep it suppressed, it's consuming all of that energy. When you are able to acknowledge that actually it was a gift, that it was a gift and it happened for you, for your growth, for your evolution, for you to be empathetic to other people who have also suffered, so that you can be of service to humanity and show up for the people who need a leader, who need a pioneer to extend their hand and bring them up with you. So my real wish is that people don't suffer the way that I suffered, that I can accelerate their path, that
Yeah.
through the long journey I walked, I can give people the shortcut, the fast track, the tools that work, the tools that have you in this empowered place.
Yes. What are those tools, Rose? Because I'm like, how do you start with
Yeah.
someone? And you also said something really interesting where you identified one trauma versus ongoing recurring trauma. And I think that's really key because sometimes we just say, no, my whole life has been the same kind of trauma over and over, abandonment trauma or scarcity, which is a form of trauma, always feeling like I don't get my needs met. No one loves me. No one cares. No one gives me anything. There's different kinds of trauma. How do you help people begin the process? Like what do you
Absolutely.
do for healing?
Yeah, I mean, huge question. And I'm going to just, we'll go into this thing
Yeah.
that comes up right away, because obviously this is the work that I do with the women that I empower to really live their lives fully. It's identifying. Awareness is the key. So identifying what are the core three themes of your life. And you'll know them because they keep coming up in different forms. But every
Mhm.
time they come up, you are being offered an opportunity to up level. And I know that's kind of like a fancy, hype word that people are using a lot, but being given an opportunity to learn that lesson. And isn't life about learning our lessons, but learning them once, so that then we get higher quality problems in our lives, so that when we're in abundance, we're thinking, okay, great, like, oh, my problem now is which charity to support. We want those higher quality problems, and we'll keep
Yes.
having initiations. That actually is our soul contract that we came into this life for. Right now I'm fasting, and one of the big themes that came up for me is that I recognized this recurring lesson in my life, and I've got to heal that through this fasting, through this higher awareness, and
Mhm.
we'll, there are tools that we can use that are going to have us come into that. But how do we move out of fear? And how do we move into walking that higher path, right? It's hard. And so it really comes down to being able to connect with your higher self.
Yeah. Okay.
Your higher self is the one that is concerned with your path, your journey in this lifetime. And
Hmm.
so to understand and be able to connect with that, we all have intuition, right? We all have this feeling, but sometimes it gets steered wrong. Why is that? Fear. What you're talking about
Hmm.
here, the lower frequencies of fear and scarcity and not enough. Well, that is your basic self. And your basic self is concerned with your survival. You may have heard of inner child work. This
Yeah.
all was for our survival. But the problem is that we're operating on this belief cycle, and we're continuing, we all get stuck in these cycles, and we're like, oh, why can't we break free?
Yeah.
And the reason is because our decisions are based out of our basic self, our fears, our needs, and the daily minutiae of just getting by and just surviving.
Yeah.
But if you can really connect with your higher self that resides not in the mind but in the body, big
Hmm.
big foundation of my teaching,
No.
is then you are able to make decisions, so that when you're met with that recurring theme in your life, rather than responding from a place of fear and scarcity and repeating that belief cycle that has you stuck there, you're actually able to make choices for your betterment, for your good, for your evolution.
Yes. I love how you pinpoint those three themes. That's one of my particular passions, helping people see those bigger patterns in their lives. And sometimes I call it the life major and the life minor, like in college, right? And I point out you take the same classes over and over, just gradually more difficult. By the time you're done with college, you are so tired of that major. You wonder why you ever picked it in the first place. Say, this is what you're experiencing here, is similar. You
Yeah.
mentioned, though, that your higher self can be embodied in your actual body
Mhm.
and you connect through that. Talk to me about that. I mean, is that part of why you're fasting right now, or how do you do that?
Yes, thank you. So we are in a masculine energy dominated society by
Hmm.
design. So millennia ago, about 5,000 years ago, we were we had equal government of our societies through the feminine beings and the masculine beings. So then we promoted the dominance of the masculine energy in order to cultivate industry, from which we have prospered. If you look at the Industrial Revolution, that is very patriarchal, pater, of course, coming from the Latin of the father. It's very, we really prospered from it. But the thing about the masculine dominated energy is that it is unsustainable. And so the feminine energy is what allows us to have creativity, to be able to think outside the box, to be able to connect with our intuition, to be able to connect with higher guidance. And so I'm not talking about genders here. I'm not talking about males or females or any genders in between. I'm talking about energies. And so whatever gender you are listening, you have these two energies within you. And I am going to tell you, unless you've done a lot of work in this area, that you are operating from a masculine dominant perspective. And that resides in your mind.
Yeah.
So we are very in our mind. And you'll find yourself stuck in these thoughts, these limiting beliefs, and they're circling round and round in your mind. And you'll have, anxiety because you're catastrophizing the future all the time. And that is meditation, actually, in the still form, is masculine in nature. However, when you're able to come into the body, when you're able to access your body, then that is the feminine. So
Mm.
dance, of course. I mean, I'm a professional dancer, but
Uh-huh.
dance is one of the ways that you can access it. You can really access your sensual energy, especially for feminine identifying beings. If you can really access your power that has been so suppressed through the millennia, then you are able to cultivate that creative energy and that connectedness with our earth, who is also divinely feminine, and that is sustainable. So we really want to come into a harmony between our masculine energies, which are very good at keeping us focused, of keeping us like on a time schedule, of
Mhm.
creating, like being very industry driven. And we need the feminine. We need that beautiful, receptive energy, that creative energy, that powerful energy. And when women, especially, can access their feminine power, then
Mhm.
then you just become so resourced in your energy. So your higher self resides within the body. And I talk about it like a compass. It's like a dial. So when you ask yourself, because we all know, we make a decision that's logical, masculine, and it
Yeah.
defies what our intuitive hit told us, right? And then after it all goes wrong, we say, oh, I knew it. My intuition knew it all along, right? So we
Right.
can actually harness this compass, which tells us, you know, is this for my growth? Is this for, the next piece of my journey? Or is this going to have me repeating this lesson and
Mhm.
essentially backtracking? And we really want to, what do we want in our lifetime? We want to evolve. We want to come to a place of wisdom. We want to, at the core of our being, we want humanity to prosper. Don't we all just want that? And it
Yes.
starts with us. I mean, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, anytime anybody asks him, how can I change other people, essentially is the theme of the question. And he always says, be the change that you want to see.
Yes.
Be It starts with you. Cultivate your own practices. And so the foundation of my teaching and the free offering that I'll be giving today is really about that. It's really about cultivating your own rituals so that you can be in harmony with your masculine and your feminine energy, so that you can choose the higher path, so that you can make decisions based on your higher self, what is for your highest good, and therefore humanity's highest good. And don't we all want
Yeah.
that?
Yes, I love it. I love it. And you mentioned normally I'm not, talking about what you have to offer people till the end, but since you mentioned it, it is part of the ritual. It is part of what you teach people how to do to reach their feminine self. It's your power hour. This is what I think you're going to, share with everybody. And by the way, there'll be a link. Just look for it either with this video or with this podcast. But like that, your power hour. What kind of rituals? Is it the same for everybody, or do you vary it up? Like, what's in this?
Yeah,
Describe it
thank
for
you.
me.
Thank
Show
you
me
so
what the
much.
next step
Well,
is.
everybody's talking about self-care right now. It's another like kind of hype thing, and
Uh-huh.
it's tricky for people to come into because of that association of it's been very much in society condoned for it's selfish to put yourself first, but really if you are filling your own cup, and I love this analogy, but if you're filling your own cup, you're able to be resourced enough to serve others. And it really takes, it's not, self care isn't like, oh, I'll take a bubble bath maybe like once a month. It's the daily commitment to yourself so that you are fully resourced to show up for
Right.
yourself. So your power hour is a teaching that I start people with and that my clients come back to again and again and again, because if they find that they let it go, then that's when suddenly their power starts to be drained by
Yeah.
the distractions of everyday life. So your power hour is capturing the alpha brain waves of when you first wake up. And so you accomplish more in the first hour of your day than you would normally in an entire day. And it
Mhm.
included a three pillars. It's the basics, and then it's your wellness practices. So what do you need for your health, for both your physical health, your emotional health, and it really cultivates that. And then the third pillar is all about working towards your work in the world, whatever that looks like. It could be your purpose, it could be raising children that are going to be the next generation, whatever that looks like for you. And so it's a shortcut teaching of how to capture those alpha brain waves, which are the most productive and then the
Mhm.
most creative. So it's the masculine and the feminine right there, and you feel so accomplished in the first hour of your day. You've completed everything for your day, and then you end up just rocking out the rest of your day, or the rest of the day is just a bonus. So I
Yeah.
really this is just a foundation of my teaching, and I'm so honored to get to share this, because on my journey of walking from survivor's guilt and post-traumatic stress disorder, it was the daily rituals that really had me be able to resource from my own power and be able to serve others from this overflowing cup.
Ah, I'm thinking how a lot of us feel like if I just have that one breakthrough, if I just have that big aha, if I just do this one deep retreat, I will be cured. All my blocks and everything will just go away. And there's a lot to be said for those moments, those big revelation moments. Like for you, maybe it was the moment you realized, I actually have PTSD. Wow,
Mhm.
now I can start working with it. But what you're sharing is it's not just that, it's the daily drip by drip building and cultivating. And this
Yeah.
also makes me think of the masculine and feminine, because the aha moment is often a mental thing. I mean, it may be a whole body or emotional thing, but it's that one, hammer striking the anvil. Whereas the daily drip is a real feminine way
Yeah.
of cultivation. You're cultivating the fields, which is the feminine,
Yeah.
of healing and moving. So I think that's fascinating. I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. Well, I mean, it really works. And yes, there are always big breakthroughs. And that's why you want to
Uh-huh.
go and work with somebody who's walked the journey, like Summer, and
Hmm.
like any of the speakers that you may interact with, that are
Yeah.
really showing up and using their voice in the way that we are here today. That,
Yeah.
when you come and work with us, we can work with you individually to have those big breakthroughs, or even in a group setting you can have those big fundamental shifts.
Yeah.
But there has to be also exactly some of the balance. You have to have the daily rituals. I mean,
Yeah.
if it's taken you a lifetime, whatever age you are now, is the age that is the number of years that you've been operating that way. And so it takes a shift. It takes daily, small, aligned actions
Yeah.
in order for you to be able to be resourced. And then along the way, absolutely, then you're ready for the big breakthroughs. You're ready
Mhm.
to really do the deep inner healing and
Yeah.
shift.
Yes, and that's another phrase that I've been hearing you say, be resourced. I really enjoy that because it reminds me that, I try to give, or I try to fix things, or I try to help people, and yet if I don't have the inner resources to pull from, what am I actually doing? And why would I expect great, tremendous success if I'm not even pulling from enough inside? So it's this building, 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 and then the giving, giving, giving.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's
Yes, and it
that's
ca and it
how it
can be
strikes
so
me.
it can be so immediate because, you can, let's say you wake up and you're irritable and you're in a negative thought pattern, but you
Mhm.
can go and sit and meditate for a minute, literally 60 seconds. You can just take a couple of good deep breaths, and
Yeah,
immediately you can be resourced to actually shift the entire day ahead of you. So,
yeah,
yeah, it can be immediate. And it's also sustainability. The whole world is talking about sustainability as we are
yeah,
facing the extinction of humanity. And what do we need in order for sustainability? Sure, the big shifts. We want the big corporations to switch to sustainable models, but we also get to do our own parts of that sustainability, looking at, and we're just a microcosm of that. And yes, we live in a society that does want the quick fix, and that is
mhm.
the masculine, and we'll just buy it, give me the results. We're very
Yep,
we're
take the
very
pill.
much.
Cure me.
Exactly,
Yeah. Mhm.
exactly. And yeah, there's a beauty in that, but really it is in the rituals. It is in having the
Yeah.
rituals for yourself that you're able to be resourced to handle whatever it is that comes up in your life. And I tell you what, just I have clients that, like, they do this power hour for a week, and their whole life is shifted. And the beautiful thing is that you can minimize it all the way down to 20 minutes if you need. If you need to get up and get out the door, then you can do
Yeah.
it in 20 minutes. And you can also luxuriate in it and go up to, 2 or 3 hours if you really want to, depending
Mhm.
on your available time. So yeah.
Beautiful. I can tell that you just embody this process.
Thank you.
When anybody looking at you or listening to you right now is going to see that, yes, you may have gone through a literal sinking ship,
Mhm.
um, but the work afterward was even of greater value. Because it's formed this worldview you have, this incredible positive radiance that you
Thank
have, and this desire to just keep sharing it and helping other people through it. I mean, you can see it, you can feel it in your energy. So Gosh, Rose, it's been just lovely. I want everybody to go visit your website, rosemetcalf.com. Just like I said in the intro, you're going to get her power hour where she'll teach you how to do this, how to set it up for yourself, either at her website or using the link that we'll have here. So, gosh, Rose, any last words, any last ideas to part with?
The biggest thing is to realize that you are important. I think sometimes we undervalue ourselves, and I say sometimes worthiness is a big theme of anybody that I work with. And we have these limiting beliefs and thoughts that we aren't important. Who am I to do this?
Yeah.
And really it comes down to, who are you not to? You are a piece of the puzzle. You are the piece of the puzzle. So when you can show up fully, then you are able to contribute to the betterment of humanity, and even more acutely to the survival of humanity. So if you take anything away from this precious time, thank you so much, Selma, for hosting me. You really are important. It's a 1 in 4 trillion chance that you were born. So just take that in. And so don't allow your traumas to keep you in that cycle.
Mm-hmm.
How can you use your experiences for the betterment of humanity? And it starts with using your voice.
I love that. So if you don't do it for yourself, do this work for everybody else. that's
Absolutely.
my
Well,
that's my takeaway.
absolutely. Even coming into this interview, I mean, we get
Yeah.
so caught up in our ego, right? But right before we started, I said, I called to higher power. I'm just spiritual, not, I don't follow any religion specifically, but I said, allow what the audience needs to hear to come through me.
Mhm.
It's not about you, but you are the vessel. You are the vessel for your message.
I love that. That is perfect. That is a beautiful closing thought to leave us with. Thank you so much, Rose, for being with me today and participating in this. I hope everybody listening got some cool takeaways. You probably saw me taking notes if you're watching the video because I'm like, oh, yeah, I like that phrase. Oh, yeah. So hopefully everybody else is feeling inspired as well. Thank you so much, Rose.
Thank you, Summer.